6.2, parallelograms. So the first thing we need to do is we need to remember what a parallelogram technically is. You probably kind of have an idea, but the geometric meaning maybe not so much. Definition of a parallelogram. It's a quadrilateral. What's quadrilateral mean? 4 sides, right? It's got 4 sides. A quadrilateral with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So what that means is the top and the bottom are parallel, and the left and the right are parallel. It's a 4-sided figure where the top and bottom are parallel, left and right are parallel, right? So we have a bunch of theorems or kind of like properties about it. So the first one, opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. So this is congruent to this. This is congruent to this, okay? 6.4, opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. When they say opposite angles, they're talking about the big ones. So in this picture, there's a lot going on. So for this picture specifically, you might want to draw what that looks like. So here's a parallelogram. It's kind of like a rectangle on its side, right? So opposite angles, like this one and this one, and this one and this one. That's kind of hard to see, but you guys get what I'm saying, okay? 6.5, consecutive angles of a parallelogram are supplementary. So consecutive angles would be like, if I were to draw, let's call it A, B, C, D, okay? Consecutive angles would be like A and B, okay? So consecutive means not opposite, it means next to. So whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise, then supplementary means what? Add up to 180, right? So angle A plus angle B add up to 180. Angle B plus C add up to 180. C plus D add up to 180. D plus A add up to 180. Or backwards, either way, clockwise or counterclockwise. Okay? 6.6, if a parallelogram has 1 right angle, then it has 4 right angles. So that makes sense, right? Because if this one, let's say angle T is a right angle, it's 90. Then angle M is congruent, so it's 90. Then these are supplementary, so it's 90. Then these are congruent, so it's 90. If one of them's right, they're all right. Does that make sense? Okay. 6.7, diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. So if you look here, this diagonal and this diagonal bisect each other. It means they cut them into 2 congruent pieces. So this is congruent to this, and this is congruent to this, right? And then diagonals separate a parallelogram into two congruent triangles. So, for example, if I have this diagonal here, if I just talk about MT, then triangle MAT would be congruent to triangle THM. You see what I'm saying? Okay. Because opposite sides are parallel, alternate interior angles are also congruent. That's why I have these extra angles congruent signs. So I know this one's congruent to this one, and I know this one's congruent to this one, the big ones, okay? But if I have a diagonal drawn, then angle MAH, see that, MAH would be congruent to THA. Do you guys see how I have like everything drawn in one picture? Okay? So it's a bunch of information. Most of it you probably already could have figured out on your own, especially like the alternate interior angle stuff, but some of it maybe not. You may not have realized that the diagonals bisected each other, that kind of stuff. Okay? So it's a bunch of properties you're going to have to know. All right? So we're going to use that to figure out some answers. Find the value of each variable in each parallelogram. So obviously I'm just missing y, right? They told me it's a parallelogram, so what do I know? Are these angles or sides, by the way? Sides, right? What do I know about opposite sides in a parallelogram? They're congruent. So I know this is congruent to this, and I know this is congruent to this. So what would I write down mathematically? Same thing. Yep, 11 equals y minus 4, or you guys said y minus 4 equals 11. That's all the same, right? What do I do to both sides? Add 4, so y is 15. Is that all they wanted? That's it. So y is 15. That's the answer. You're done. Did I lose anybody? This is a pretty easy section as long as you know the properties, right? You say it's parallelogram, you see what you know, and you just set up the equation. Okay? Number 5, same concept. Do I have sides of the parallelogram? No. Do I have angles of the parallelogram? No. I have diagonals of the parallelogram, right? So we're going to go and look at our theorems and see which one talks about diagonals. Which one talks about diagonals and the length of them? 6.7, right? If you look at 6.7 again, it says diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. So what that means is this piece is congruent to this piece, and this piece is congruent to this piece. Everybody okay? So what would I set up? 4w minus 7
Equals 2w plus 3.
equals 2w plus 3. And then 3b plus 1 equals 2b plus 5. Very good. I capitalize my b so they don't look like a 6. You do whatever you want. Okay? So if we subtract 2w, we get 2w. If we add 7, we get 10. So w is 5. Very good. If I subtract 2b, I get b. If I subtract the 1, I get 4. So w is 5, b is 4. Did I lose anybody? Okay. Anybody still need that page? Okay. Find the value of each variable. Again, they told us it's parallelogram. What do I know about parallelograms in these kind of angles? Like, what do I know about opposite angles? I know they're the same, so I'm going to go ahead and say 2y equals 2x plus 11, even though that's a problem, right? Why is that a problem? Because they're different variables, right? So I'm going to have to do something else. These both have an x in them. What are these angles called? Yes, consecutive, which means they're supplementary. Very good. So these are consecutive angles, which we just said were supplementary, which means they add up to what? 180. Very good. They're not equal. They add up to 180. So obviously we're going to start here to find x. Okay. So x and 2x is obviously 3x. What's negative 5 plus 11?
6.
Plus 6 equals 180. Subtract the 6, so 3x equals 174. Divide by 3, and x is 58. Did I lose anybody there? You guys okay? Pretty easy algebra for us by now, right? So over here, instead of an x, what am I going to substitute? 58. Good. So what's 2 times 58? 116. And what's 116 plus 11? 127. Divide by the 2? 63.5. Is that allowed to happen? Sure. Some of you guys lately have been asking me, like, I got a fraction, is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. Right? X is 58, y is 63.5. Anybody confused before we flip the page? Are you sure? So this year, that's a proof, which we are not doing yet. So that's it.
Do we have an assignment for this?
Yes. Anybody confused? Okay. Let me end this and then we'll talk about it.